For me, addiction is just so scary because you no longer have control over your free will. Hi, and welcome to Clutter. I'm Joan, and today I'm going to share with you my first ever week on ADHD medication. I got diagnosed with ADHD in July of 2025, right before I turned 32. I don't know how I made it to 32 without medication. For my first week, I was prescribed 10 milligrams of Adderall extended release, and everything you see in this video is going to be related to that medication. I wanted to see if medication can help improve focus, forgetfulness, and help with overall executive functioning. I lived a very slow and unproductive life, and it did, but by the end of day 3, I realized that it was also helping with something that I've been struggling with my entire life. You don't have to suffer, people around you don't have to suffer, and I know people around me have suffered. So stay tuned, because in this video, I'm sharing my fears and my hesitations. I am just so terrified. The downsides and the positives of ADHD medication prescribed for ADHD. You don't have to deal with these symptoms for no reason. They're completely preventable. Quick note before I start, I am not a medical provider, and everything you see in this video is my experience alone. None of this is medical advice or diagnosis. If you seek medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider. I suspected I had ADHD for over a decade, and I actually started testing 2 or 3 times, and I have never completed it like every respectable ADHDer, but I just got prescribed Adderall. And I have to admit I'm a little bit freaked out because I know there's a chance of getting addicted. For me, addiction is just so scary because you no longer have control over your free will. My doctor basically told me to take them 3 times this week and see how they affect me. When does it kick in? When does it wear off? How does my body feel when I'm on the medication? Today is my first day on Adderall. I got this prescribed for ADHD. I'm not functioning today. I have put off taking this for the past week because I was just terrified of the side effects and stuff. But I'm taking it today because I cannot function. Like I just woke up and I'm not functioning at all. Yeah, I can't even talk to the camera right now because I'm so fried. So, and I have a project today and I need to be sharp because it's the first session with the client and I want to make a good impression and be productive and make sure that we're gonna, get through the day fine without me just like sitting and like looking around and being overwhelmed about this stuff. So yeah, this is the first day that I'm taking it. I'm super terrified because I'll also be driving and I'm not sure if it has anything to do with that. But here it goes. I hope I'm not going to have any weird withdrawal symptoms for this, or I'm not going to have like a heart attack or something. Gosh, I'm like super terrified. But I need to be sharp today, and today is not my day, definitely. And if it was, if I was at home and if I needed to have some video to do some, gosh, I can't even talk. If I needed to do some video editing or clean the house or something like that today, it would have been fine. But I will be with the client and I need to be sharp. And I also have an employee and it's her first session. So I cannot afford to go there and not know what I'm doing. So here we go. It's time for the midday update. It is now 2 p.m. approximately. So I took my Adderall this morning at about 8:30, and then I headed out to my client, and I was actually able to really focus compared to the morning when I couldn't even speak and link to phrases. I was able to coordinate a team of 3 people. The client was super happy with the result. In terms of how I feel about Adderall, it just I think it really, really helped me. I don't think I would have been able to just coordinate so many people without getting overwhelmed and lost, because I'm in one of these days when I could feel this morning I was very slow. So I think it really, really helped me. It's been great so far. I haven't had any, I don't know, heart racing or anything weird going on with my body. I'm actually now in the parking lot at Dunkin' Donuts because I stopped to send a marketing campaign for one of my other clients, and I was in a time crunch. And usually just like writing this type of email or marketing campaign or an SMS for this marketing campaign would take me at least 2 hours. I was just able to do this in less than half an hour, which is unheard of in my case. I'm one of these people who are really, really slow to write and to compose, and I'm freaking out about details, especially when I know this is going to go to over 100 people or 500 people or to whoever I need it's gonna go. Usually what I would do in this case, when I have an hour to kill before picking up my son, I would start to work on something and then finish after my son would go to bed. Yeah, I lived a very slow and unproductive life until now. I'll keep you posted. I'm really curious to see when this is going to start to taper off, and if I'm going to actually feel it in any weird way, if I'm gonna crash, or if I'm gonna get really cranky, or if it's gonna affect my mood in any way. I'm really curious to see how that's gonna go.
I started to feel Adderall kind of taper off starting with 5 p.m. Overall, it was a great day. I did start to crash, and when I say crash, it's pretty much go to the level where I was this morning. Without the pill, I would have been like that the entire day, because I know I've had days like this in the past. Curious to see how this is going to impact my sleep. I'll keep you posted with day 2.
It's 6:20 a.m. I slept for about 8 hours, and my sleep score is 90, so no issues there with sleep. I am trying not to take the medication after 9 a.m. and I am trying to reduce coffee as much as I can. It was day 2 and I was getting my family ready for a trip to New Hampshire. It was a work outing for my husband's job. Usually when I need to pack and I have a million thoughts in my brain, I can focus on what it is I need to do. I can follow a simple list. I feel like it's easier for me to focus when it's quiet around me, when our son is not asking me a million questions and adding to my million thoughts that I already have. Prepping for a trip has so many moving parts that kind of need to collide at the same point in time. In other words, it requires a lot of executive functioning. You're trying to pack and make sure you have everything you need. You're trying to leave the house in a decent condition so you don't have to clean up when you come back from the trip exhausted. You are trying to pay attention to your toddler who's interrupting your train of thought every 30 seconds, while you're also trying to communicate with your partner and plan the day ahead. And your partner is probably as overwhelmed as you are. That is an executive functioning nightmare. It can be very stimulating and overwhelming. It was just smooth. It was perfect. I was very calm. Adderall calms me. Matthew was demanding as always, like nothing changed there. So he was his typical usual, requiring all the attention. But I was able to pack a little bit before the boys woke up. Then we kind of saw, my husband and I swapped. I asked him to put certain things, and I took Matthew while he was, showering. After we had breakfast, we sat down and we had coffee. We had a wonderful morning. It was just perfect. Other than that, I felt the Adderall wear off at about 12. It had been about 6 hours. I feel it wear it off because I get less patient. I get triggered more, and my patience kind of wears off. So it was about between day 2 and 3 when I started to talk about emotional dysregulation. And while this has been a theme throughout my childhood and my adult life, it has really become disruptive during my pregnancy and after I gave birth. I did notice that the ADHD medication was helping regulate my mood on very specific situations. I get very frustrated when I can't accomplish something that whether that's like packing or, doing something. And that usually happens when our son comes and he wants something from us. So the fact that, my train of thought kind of gets interrupted really, really frustrates me. But today I was just able to switch back and forth between packing and playing with him, looking for something in a pile of laundry and playing with him again. It was super easy to move back and forth. And that never really happens for me. The only downside of Adderall was that I couldn't eat. I only had like half a cup of coffee. I had a little sugar drop, started to shake a little bit, and I was very dizzy, and I was starting to have a headache. It was about 2:30 when we finally had something to eat. It took me about half an hour to get back to normal, so everything was fine. This is day 3 on Adderall. I woke up at 7 a.m. and I waited to take my pill until 8:30 a.m. because I wanted the effects to last later in the day. Matthew woke up at about 8 a.m. because I took it at 8:30 and it took a while to kick in. There was about an hour when I was not on the medication and I could feel that my patience was very thin and I was getting anxious and triggered really easily. And then I think we were already having breakfast when I just felt this like calm go down into my body. And I actually asked my husband if he can also tell that the Adderall kicked in, and he said, yes, you are calmer. Again, I've struggled with emotional dysregulation my entire life, and I've come a long way in managing my anxiety, my triggers, and my overall emotional reactions. However, I did notice that it becomes more difficult to control these things in the second half of my cycle, which is also known as the luteal phase. That is the period of time between the end of the ovulation and the first day of the menstrual cycle. I started Adderall during this period, and it was the only medication that has ever helped me. I've been on birth control. Nothing has completely alleviated these symptoms. Turns out it was just untreated ADHD for my entire life. And if you are wondering why you should pursue a diagnosis later in life, after you've gone through college and after you've become successful or anything, it's because you don't have to deal with these symptoms for no reason. They're completely preventable. You don't have to suffer. People around you don't have to suffer. And I know people around me have suffered. My ADHD was diagnosed a few days ago. And just being on medication now, it just feels like, what do you say, babe? It's like what?
Night and day?
It's like night and day. Today was a bit more rough, and I had higher hopes for Adderall, and I was hoping it would really help better than it did. My symptoms tend to worsen the closer I get to my period. So when I say that I had a rough day, I meant from both a physical standpoint and an emotional standpoint. I guess ADHD medication is not this magic one that's gonna solve all your problems. You still have to put in the effort. I will also do whatever it is I'm doing, typically, drinking water, eating healthy, taking a lot of breaks for myself, sleeping more, about 2 more hours a night, and just try to take it easy. It is also the day when I decided to continue to take the medication every day and see how that's going to impact my mood and the level of tiredness I have in my luteal phase. Hi, this is day 5 on Adderall. I decided to take this every day until I get my period because I have very severe PMDD symptoms. I noticed that it makes me calmer. It makes me able to switch context very, very smoothly. So my frustration level kind of goes down. So it's just been wonderful the first 3 days. I think I was about 14 days away from my period. And when I started Adderall, I didn't even think that it could help alleviate these symptoms. I didn't even think that it was an option. Or I was able to film, write a script, and edit a short in an hour. If I knew that Adderall could potentially damage whatever biological systems I have in my brain, I would consider not continuing this. But if it just goes back to my regular state, this is my state of being, slow and unproductive for 32 years, right? So I'm fine going back because I know what my baseline is. But if it damages it in any way, then I would be very concerned. So this is something that I'm actually going to bring up to my physician next time.
Good morning. This is gonna be my first day without Adderall after 6 days on it. I'm gonna go work on my website and see how that's gonna go. Am I going to be distracted when moving from one tab to another? I've been sitting in front of my computer for the past 17 minutes and all I managed to do was to upload 2 pictures and copy paste a description. I'm very, very distracted right now. Just like looking away for a second from my computer completely keeps me there in a trance. Like, do you do that? Just look somewhere in the my cat is throwing up. Oh, that's disgusting. I was just saying, do you ever get stuck in like a trance and you just like look somewhere in like a fixed spot and your mind is just racing and racing and racing and you think about random stuff? I do that all the time. I used to do it when I was little too. And I remember my parents would come in front of my face and do that. It's like, hey, we're here. And it's so funny because I haven't experienced this in the past few days. But I mean, again, giving myself grace. I'm not on Adderall. I don't have to rule the world every day. We just have to take it easy. It's 8 a.m. now. My son and husband just went out the door. This morning, I noticed that I was talking about the random things that just popped into my head. My husband said he actually missed me and that it's really cute, which, makes me feel seen and appreciated, and it's absolutely cute. I almost forgot to give, the lunch that I packed, I forgot to give it to my husband to take for my son, but he reminded me, and I also forgot to give them the milk, which he also reminded me about. And I noticed that I was a little bit slower on just starting things. I sat down longer to drink my coffee. It makes me smile because this is how I've been all my life. But just with the past 6 days on Adderall, I haven't experienced this, and it's interesting to see the difference. Having ADHD is so much fun and such a pain sometimes.
I've now experienced 6 days with medication and 1 day without it, and the contrast is undeniable. I don't have all the answers, but I do have some thoughts that I wanted to share on 5 areas that matter the most to me. The first one was around cognitive speed and executive functioning. So without ADHD medication, my thoughts are so slow that my attention jumps to another thought before fully processing the first one. You can imagine listening to a podcast on 0.5 speed, but your attention kind of wants 1.5 speed. So you keep skipping ahead, and then you kind of hear the entire episode, but you understand none of it. That's my brain without medication. On medication, I can stay with one thought at a time until it's fully resolved. For example, when I leave the house, I ask myself, do I have everything I need? And my mind kind of splits in two and maps out a timeline. And one part jumps into the future, flashing images of the day ahead, the errands I need to run and everything I need to do. And the other part moves backwards, replaying what I've already packed. And then it does this weird thing when it kind of settles on a clear thought and it says, grab the Amazon return. It's like coordinated time travel, and it's so weird. The second part of this is a task initiation. And for me, something that I dread and I always procrastinate is washing straws. So someone on Reddit, I think, described what it feels like to start something with ADHD. Imagine standing at the bottom of a steep mountain, looking up at the sink and the straws sitting at the top of the mountain. Just starting requires this huge amount of effort to climb the mountain. And I can see the straws, I can see the sink. I know it's not hard, but starting feels completely disproportionate to what it actually requires. That's why procrastination happens. With medication, that mountain is gone. The sink and the straws are at the same level with me. There's no dread, there's no dramatic resistance. I just watch them. I just start doing the thing. To my surprise and to my husband's surprise, I just start things before I have time to overthink it. The second aspect of this one is daytime sleepiness and sensory processing. Before medication, the sleepiness was so heavy that I sometimes felt the need to pull into the Target parking lot and just take a nap at 11 a.m. This literally happened to me. On medication, the need to sleep during the day vanished. And Adderall is, a stimulant. It wakes you up, but it does more than that. It makes me feel awake and energized and ready to conquer the world. The second aspect is sensory processing. I have a strong sensitivity to light, sound, and cold. Without medication, a relatively loud conversation or outdoor noise just feels sharp and piercing. I'm cold constantly. Any draft creates deep discomfort and even pain. It's the same with light. The first thing I experience when I go outside is pain in my eye area. On medication, it's as if someone adjusted the brightness and the contrast of the world around me, and the edges soften, the static quiets. And I'm not fighting the environment anymore. I'm just existing in it. The third one is the biggest for me, and that's mood regulation during PMS and impact on PMDD. Now that I've experienced what my brain can do with a little bit of support, I'm realizing that a lot of my mood discomfort before my period or during PMS comes from two things, and that's the daytime sleepiness and the sensory amplification. If you haven't watched the sensory processing chapter, make sure you go back and you watch that, because I talk in more detail about what that feels like for me. Everything I described previously gets amplified a million times. Like the sound is louder, the light is brighter, the cold is colder, and my attention just shifts from what I'm doing to how my body feels, and everything becomes a trigger. Everything. And I've lived like this for more than 30 years, and I've never realized how much energy I was actually spending on just tolerating the environment until I actually had the contrast and comparison. When I power through exhaustion, I ignore sensory overwhelm. My anxiety rises because my brain is in fight or flight all the time. I'm probably not smiling, and I look grumpy. I snap at people. And I just feel like I was shaken awake in the middle of the night to run a marathon. Adderall makes me feel alert and energized, but calm at the same time. It vanishes my anxiety. It makes me excited about the day ahead. It minimizes the heaviness of a situation, whether that's none of our cars are working and we need to drop Matthew off at school and we also need to get to work, to the spoon fell on the floor and now there's yogurt splashed everywhere. My reaction to both of these situations is, that's okay. It happens. Let's see what we can do about it. That's the really good part about Adderall and the impact on PMDD. The bad part is that I noticed that the closer I get to my period, the less effective the medication became. It's not perfect, but it's better, at least. The fourth one is about the hunger suppression and the dry mouth side effects. Stimulants can reduce appetite. Because I already tend to ignore hunger signals or any sort of signals that come from my body, whether that's I need to eat, drink, or pee, I don't eat until I'm completely famished. And that's when I grab the first thing that I see. After that sugar crash that I mentioned in day 2, I made a conscious effort to eat regularly. And interestingly, that helped me become less impulsive with food. So I was able to make more conscious decisions instead of kind of reacting to extreme hunger. Regarding hydration, if you drink a lot of water but don't eat properly, you can actually dilute your electrolytes. That's sodium, potassium, and magnesium. That just help regulate your nerve signals, muscle function, and like fluid balance in your body. On the other hand, if you don't drink enough water and don't eat enough, you can become dehydrated. Either way, this might lead to migraines, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, and muscle cramps. And if you're someone like me who forgets to eat or to drink water or completely ignores their body when they're being told eat or drink, dehydration is a real thing. Eventually, this exercise was good because these strong signals of being thirsty actually made me drink more water. So now, I eat better, I drink better, and I'm more aware of what my body feels. And number 5, this one is a little bit sensitive, but I feel like after having this trial on ADHD medication, I feel like a version of me was brought back to life, and I thought I'd lost this person somewhere in college or maybe even in high school. And for a long time, I thought I had just become this dull, uninteresting, antisocial gremlin who just wants to pick a fight with everyone. Don't get me wrong, I was like always quirky, but I did have a little bit of spark. But over the years, the constant effort of powering through sleep deprivation, excessive tiredness, my short temper, lack of focus, sensory overload, these things just drained me and accentuated my PMDD. And it took so much internal energy to just function, to go to work, to clean my house, to be a good wife, sister, mother, friend, and to stay on top of my health with everything else going on. And there was just not much left of the creative grit or ambition or the energy that I used to have. I just remember that, little girl that was just doing so many things and was like thriving on chaos and was always energetic. And I just feel like all of that was reduced to just anger and frustration. With medication, that effort just becomes almost invisible. It's not perfect, right? But the friction is gone. And what's left is a part of me that I just thought I wasn't there anymore. It's not perfect. It doesn't make me superhuman. It doesn't give me a second brain, but it just lowers the friction of existing. And that's the clearest contrast I've experienced this week. Number 4, this is about some side effects common in Adderall. So number 4 is about the side effects of hunger and thirst. So please go back and listen to that one because I speak into detail about all of these things. I might actually have a chance of finishing this today. Oh, gee.